Hello, Consciously Parenting family, and welcome to the Conscious Coffee Break. I'm Jen Kobrick. I'm a holistic family consultant with the Consciously Parenting Project, and today we're talking about getting our needs met. So we've talked about this a bit before. We've talked about self-care. We've talked about accepting reality. So we've talked about some of these themes that we're going to talk about today. But today I'm going to talk about one of the most common parenting challenges that we hear about. One of the most common needs that we hear about parents not getting met, specifically the need for sleep. I imagine a lot of you listening to this are or have been sleep deprived at some point as parents. And I'm no exception to that. I am recording this at night after it took until almost 10 o'clock to get my toddler to go to bed. So we're going to talk about sleep and about getting our needs for sleep met. And we're going to use this as an example to sort of talk about what the process of creatively getting needs met looks like. This could apply to other things. This could apply to a need for time alone, a need for connection with our partner, a need for healthy food for ourselves. It could apply to any need that we have that is not getting met. The same sort of framework. Okay, so we're going to imagine that you have a child who is not sleeping as much as you'd like them to, and you are not sleeping as much as you would like to. And something that we hear over and over again, the introduction to this conversation is often something along the lines of, how do I get my child to sleep longer, more independently, go to bed earlier at night, sleep later in the morning, whatever the pain point might be, but something along the lines of, how do I get my child to do this thing? And then when we dig into it, we find out that the reason for this, which there are other reasons we hear for parents to want to do this, but in this case, we're going to talk about that the reason underneath this is that the parent is not getting enough sleep, and the parent is struggling because they're not getting enough sleep. And so it feels like, from the parent's perspective, it feels like if my child doesn't sleep more, then I can't sleep more. And if I don't sleep more, I'm not going to be okay. Or I'm not okay now, and I need my child to sleep more so that I can sleep more so that I can be okay. And I want to validate that, first of all, that your need for sleep is real. You need sleep. We all need sleep. And the consequences, the negative consequences when we don't get enough sleep are real also. A lack of sleep can lead to depression, anxiety. It can lead to struggling to function, to remember things, to drive safely, to care for our children. So it's really true that you need sleep. You're not imagining that. And it's also really true that if your child could do the thing that you want them to do with sleep, they would. So it feels like often, if I just do everything right, if I find the right swaddle, if I do the right bedtime routine, if I read the right book, if I play the right white noise, if the room is the right temperature, if it's just dark enough but not too dark, if I do everything right, then tonight will be the night that my child sleeps the way I want them to, and I will get rest, and I will be okay. And so on the other side of that, it feels like if I say, well, my child is not going to sleep in this way that I would like them to, and I don't know when or if they're going to ever sleep in that way, and it feels like if we say that, if we admit those words, that we are also saying, I will never sleep and I will never be okay. And that's really big and really scary So if that's where you're at right now, or have been at some point, I want to pause for a minute here and take a deep breath and feel where your feet make contact with the floor, and come back to this moment right now. Take some more breaths, because that is really big, and that can send us into a really big spiral of panic and worry and fear, because those are the places that we go when our needs are not getting met and we feel like they can't or won't get met ever. So where do we go from that place? We could continue trying all the things and maybe one of them really will help our child sleep better. Or maybe by the time we have tried them all, our child will have moved on to a different phase in which their sleep patterns are different. We can try progressively more disconnecting strategies to try to force our children to sleep, that may not feel good to our children or to us, and may or may not actually get our children to sleep in the way we imagine anyway. Or we can start to look at that big, scary, oh my God, my needs might never get met hole and explore it. So what happens when we go there? When we say, okay, my kid's not sleeping through the night, or I guess my kid's not going to bed before 10 o'clock, or, or I guess my kid's gonna sleep in my room because otherwise they're not gonna sleep. Whatever the thing might be that we're resisting so much. When we say that, when we say, I guess that's just not gonna happen, what happens? So the first thing that happens is a lot of big feelings from us. I talked about that we can go into this spiral of this, the fear and the worry and the anxiety about getting our needs met, because our needs are really important. And especially if we're already in a place where we're really not okay, because our needs are not being met and have not been met for months or years. So this is the part where we really need support, because if we just go into that hole by ourselves, then we just end up in the bottom of a dark hole by ourselves. But if we go into that with support, with someone who can allow us to feel our feelings without being consumed by them, with someone who can, without invalidate, we're not looking for someone to tell us, oh, you'll be fine, you'll get through it, oh, my kids didn't sleep either and they're fine now. We're not looking for that. We're not looking to have those feelings invalidated, but we're looking for someone who can hold the space of I know that you deep down in the core of your being can get through this. I know that you can find a way. I know that, that things are not okay now and they can be okay on the other side of this. Someone who can hold that bigger picture for us so that we don't have to hold it for ourselves. So that we can let go of that framework and just be with the feeling of, I'm not okay. My need's not getting met. I need something to be different here. And with that support, instead of just going into a hole that there's no coming out of, we can instead go through, like it's a tunnel instead of a hole. We can go through that experience, feel those feelings, go through all of that grief. That's what it is. It's grief. It's grief because we're losing something that we never actually had, but thought we were gonna have. We thought we were gonna have a child who slept through the night in their own bed or crib, went to bed at this time. And, we thought we had that, or we're gonna have that. And we've been trying to get that. And when we let go of it, that's a loss. And we need to create the space to grieve that loss. And grief needs support. So once we have fully passed through those feelings, the other side of that is where creativity lives. And we have to process the feelings before we can get to the creativity. And a good hint that the feelings are not finished is if someone is making suggestions for things that you could try and the reaction you have is like, never gonna work. Nope, nothing's gonna work. It can't happen. That's a good sign that the resistance is still there, that the feelings have not fully been processed enough to be in that creative space. And it doesn't mean that in that creative space that every single idea that comes up is gonna go, yeah, that might work. There's still going to be something you're going to go, yeah, either that doesn't sit well with me and my parenting philosophy and my values, or I know my kid and that's just not going to work. But if it feels like, no, nothing's going to work, not going to work, that's a sign that the feelings are still there in the way of that creativity. So when the feelings are fully processed and we get to that creative space on the other side, that's the space where we can look with a out-of-the-box lens at, all of the people in our family and even beyond the people who live in our home, the rest of our network of family, of friends, community support. And we can look at, okay, where and when and how do all of the people in this household sleep? And can somebody or multiple somebodies sleep in a different place at a different time or in a different way, such that I, as the sleep-deprived parent, get more of the sleep that I need? And I have seen literally dozens upon dozens of different solutions that have worked because children are different. Exactly what the parent needs is different from family to family. Some parents, it's a quality of sleep. Some parents, it's a quantity of sleep. Some parents, it's specific hours that really they got to get sleep in, some sleep in these hours, and it doesn't really matter, how much, as long as they get this chunk of time. Where other parents, it's like total over 24 hours, but doesn't need to be one block. So depending on exactly what the parent's sleep need is, and then depending on what it is that's challenging about the child and the child's personality and the child's needs, and the situation in the home, how many adults there are, how many children there are, when different people might need to be leaving the house or coming home. So there's no one size fits all. There's no, this is how you solve this problem. So I'm sorry if you thought you were going to get an instruction manual on sleep. But in that creative space, we can find something, and not that we're going to get, the kind of uninterrupted sleep that we got on vacation without children. That might happen when our kids are grown up. Maybe. But it's possible to get to the point where we're getting enough sleep to be okay. And again, exactly what that means is going to be different for different people. So why do we do this? Well, partly because the other way doesn't actually work, right? We can, if we are not in that space, we can see how it's not working. The constant, I'm trying this, I'm trying that, and none of them are working, and that's stressful on top of the lack of sleep, is causing all these problems, and none of it's working. So we do this partly because the other way doesn't work. So, but also, so the immediate benefit, of course, to figuring out sleep that works for everyone in the family is getting more sleep. And that is vitally important in and of itself. But beyond that, this is the gateway to so much healing. In figuring out this one thing, there's healing about things, about boundaries, about whether we can have boundaries with our own child. And if we didn't experience healthy boundaries growing up, that experience of having healthy boundaries in a relationship is so transformative. We can heal things about agency and personal power, and self-control, and who actually has the power to decide how much sleep I get. Is it me, or is it this this tiny human that actually is the one who has the power over my sleep? And if that power rests externally with our child, then we have no agency, we have no personal power. And if we take back that agency, that can be very transformative and healing. There is so much room to heal wounds about connection and attachment, and how sleep and needs were handled in our own family of origin when we were children. So this one issue, with this really immediate need that is really important, has all of these other things that follow on from it when we can work through all of the layers of it and find a new path, something different than what we've experienced before. So I could talk about all of those different pieces for whole other episodes. And so if you have questions or comments about any of this, please put them in the comments, and I will do another episode if that's something that's helpful to all of you. And if you are in that space, whether it's with sleep or with some other need, then our community healing story circles are a really great place to get that support for the feelings part of it. Our membership group is going to be opening up again very soon, which is another way to get a lot more personalized support and a lot of calls with me and with our founder, Rebecca, with other members of the Consciously Parenting team. We have one-on-one support if you're really in crisis and needing a lot of support right now. We have our Facebook group, which is a really great place both to get the support piece, but it's also a really great place to generate ideas in that idea phase, because there's just so many parents who have experienced so many different children and come up with so many creative solutions to this problem. So please reach out to us if this is something that you're struggling with, and let us support you and support your family and help you to get your needs met, because your needs are really important. All right, have a great week, and I will see you on the next Conscious Coffee Break.